Welcome to Great Moments in Business, your source for tips and ideas to grow your business. Many entrepreneurs have moments of greatness, but they're never heard of because they happen behind the scenes. This podcast gives you an insider's look at how businesses have used innovation and excellence to get predictable results. And now, here's your host, Derek Little.
Hello and welcome. I'm Derek Little, founder of Predictable Results, the business growth coaching company. And I'm your host for Great Moments in Business. If you haven't already, subscribe to my podcast for more tips and ideas to grow your business. In this episode, I'm discussing one of the biggest problems that all companies need to solve: how to generate leads. I'm about to tell you how a lead generation system helped a Fortune 500 company go from bankruptcy to being acquired in a $1.2 billion deal. Funerals are among the most expensive purchases a consumer ever makes. But most people have never planned a funeral and have very little experience. So, funeral decisions are often made under a lot of pressure and stress. The company in this example owned over 1,700 funeral homes. But after a market downturn, they had to file for bankruptcy protection. To get the company back in shape, they renamed their firm and launched a new marketing campaign. The company's main products were funeral ceremonies, viewings, and memorials. They also offered prearranged funeral services. A prearrangement is where a funeral is purchased years or even decades in advance. This can eliminate the sudden stress of planning a funeral, and it can also be a smart investment. My role was to sell funeral prearrangements from a downtown Toronto funeral home. But the problem was, funerals were something that most people would rather avoid. In fact, it was so hard to generate leads that within only a few months, all of the 7 other recently hired salespeople quit. Our funeral home manager was under pressure from head office to increase sales, and he turned to me for results. Instead of quitting, I met with our sales manager, who suggested I create a seminar. In my first attempt, I gave members of the audience a binder of documents and talked about funeral planning. But my seminar was too dull. Some people were even upset by the content, and there were definitely no leads. After creating a new improved seminar, I got way better results. Here's how I took people from tears to cheers. The first step was to communicate our purpose. This was summed up in the title, The Good Grief Seminar. Church groups and building managers liked the idea, but didn't know how to introduce it to their group. So I gave them a poster. I also gave them a sign-up sheet, which helped organize the next step, the free lunch. Creating a lunch and learn made it easier to draw an audience. The sign-up sheet let me know how much food and handouts to bring. And our flower supplier gave us free samples to decorate the tables. On the day of the seminar, I got there early to perk the coffee. Once everyone had arrived and was seated, I turned out the lights and started the movie. This was a heartwarming video about the advantages of pre-planning. It explained that the best way to celebrate a life well lived was with a funeral well planned. While it played, I set up a tripod. On this, I put a large pad of paper with a line drawn down the middle. Then I asked for audience feedback on the advantages of pre-planning. I wrote down all their suggestions on the left and usually ran out of space. But since there weren't any disadvantages, the right side was always left blank. My next step was to introduce our special guest, the funeral director. I had them come wearing their full funeral uniform to answer questions. Our directors were so passionate about their work that the audience loved them. After the Q&A, there was only one step left, generating the leads. To do this, I asked everyone to complete the feedback form in the handout, but not everyone could be bothered. Then I announced we'd be doing a draw for gift certificates from a local restaurant, and I'd be collecting the forms in a basket, and from there I'd pick the winners. Then everyone filled out the form. Now there was one more surprise. Earlier, I hid one of my business cards under the tablecloth at each table. I asked everyone to lift the tablecloth, and whoever found a business card won a free vase of flowers. The audience was totally thrilled, and at the end, there was usually a big round of applause. After everyone had left, I'd see which feedback forms had the very last box checked. That was the one that said, "Yes, please contact me with more information." And those were my leads. The end result was that every time I held a seminar, we got leads. The seminar was so effective, yet simple to do, anyone could be trained how to do it. So pretty soon, the company had me training their other employees. Within a year, the company was in much better shape and was acquired by the industry leader in a $1.2 billion deal. And I'm sure that the Good Grief seminar played some small part in that success. One of the greatest moments for me was getting a big round of applause after giving my first new improved seminar. Compared to my first attempt, it felt like a huge victory. Also, the cost of food at each seminar was $140, but some seminars brought in sales of over $50,000, so there was a big return on investment. The point of this story is that you may not be in the death care business, but that's not what's important. What is important is that your business needs a way to consistently generate leads. The fundamentals of lead generation are the same no matter what industry you're in. But getting leads takes a lot of time and effort. The only way to make it easier is by creating a system. Then you'll have more freedom and control, and your business will get predictable results. Well, that wraps up this episode. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast for more tips and ideas to grow your business. In closing, I'd like to leave you with a quote by Coach Paul Bryant. He said, "It's not the will to win that matters. Everyone has that. It's the will to prepare to win that makes the difference." To create your unique lead generation system, try one of my mastermind groups. I bring together entrepreneurs in non-competing industries for brainstorming and accountability. Contact me for a free trial session. If you need more help, I offer one-on-one business coaching. This is Derek Little. Thanks for listening to Your Success.
Thanks for listening to Great Moments in Business, your source for tips and ideas to grow your business. Want to achieve your moments of greatness? Contact us to join one of our mastermind groups or for one-on-one business coaching. Enrollment is limited, so visit predictableresults.coach today and start getting results you can count on.